So in this lecture, we're going to speak about common language constructs. And these are the things that you pretty much do in any language, but we're going to look at how you get them done in JavaScript. Okay, so here I am in Sublime Editor, and I'm looking at script.js, which is located in the Lecture 43 folder. And again, the setup is very similar. I have the Chrome Developer Tools opened here in the Console tab, and therefore whenever we save this, script.js, the browser sync tool that is running in the background will sense that we've updated this file, and it will go ahead and refresh the browser executing our JavaScript code. So I have a bunch of topics that I'd like to go through, and basically the code for those topics is sitting right in the same file, but I, at this point, commented them out so we could go one by one. The first thing I want to take a look at is string concatenation. Well, just like in a lot of other languages, JavaScript allows you to concatenate strings on the fly as if there are numbers, as if there are arithmetic numbers. So for example, here we've declared a string with the value hello. And in the very next line, we're concatenating the string with another string with a space and the word world. So now this operator right here, plus equals, is really equivalent to the operator. Let me comment that string out. Let me comment that line out. And if I said this, string plus world, this would be an identical line to this one. So let's go ahead and keep both those lines for now, and we'll comment out the second line. And the way I comment out the thing without actually having to type it is to press Control/ on Windows and Command/ on a Mac. And basically what I'm doing is I'm concatenating the string with the word world. And then I'm going to output it to the console using string plus and an exclamation point, another string. So the only difference between these two statements, this one and this one, is that this one is actually going to store a new string in the string variable, as opposed to this one is just going to concatenate it and throw it right into the log function. So let's go ahead and save this. As you can see, it refreshed and it said hello world exclamation point. So let me test this out. As I said before, if I comment this line out and uncomment this one, these lines are exactly equivalent. This is just a shortcut to say the exact same thing as we're saying right here. So let's save that, and again it's going to refresh and saying exactly the same thing. So let's go ahead and comment this whole thing out so we could go to the next example that I want to talk about. So actually let me close the file browser on the side so we could see it a little bit better. Okay, so the next one we're going to talk about is math operators. And the math operators are straightforward, and if you've done any kind of a math operation in other languages, there's really no difference here, pretty much. Actually, let me comment out the second line for now. So the first thing is there's a plus operator, the minus, the multiply operator, and divide operator. And the same type of rules that apply in other languages and really in math in general apply here as well. So for example, the precedence of parentheses also applies here. So as you can see here, I'm doing 5 plus 4, and that will get executed before the division by 3. So 5 plus 4, that's 9 divided by 3, that's 3. So if I save that, I should see that it is going to output console.log output 3. Now let me uncomment the second line here, and what we're doing here is kind of strange. We're doing undefined divided by 5. Now when we execute that, let's go ahead and save that, we're going to get an NaN. Now what is NaN? NaN is a special symbol that indicates not a number. And the biggest reason I'm showing you is because it's very common to define a function. Let's say we define a function test1 that takes an A argument, and in the function we'll do console.log, and console.log will say a divided by 5. So now if we call this test1 function, we never really passing the a in here. So what's going to happen? Let's go ahead and save that. You'll see we're going to get an NaN again, not a number. So when you debug your code and you call a function and somewhere inside the function something starts throwing not a number, chances are that there's something that was supposed to be passed in into that function and either got neglected to be passed in, or something happened to it along the way right before it was supposed to be passed in, and then you have an undefined variable inside your function. Okay, so let's go ahead and comment this out, and we'll save that again so we'll clear the screen for us. And let's go to this topic called equality. Let's uncomment this. So here what we have is we're declaring a variable, defining a variable x, equal to 4 and defining a variable y equal to 4 as well. Now notice, by the way, that we're defining them with only one keyword var. This is a shortcut in JavaScript that if you wanted to, you could just put a comma in between variable definitions, and that is perfectly legal syntax. And in fact, this is very common in other languages as well. In the next line, we have an if statement, and the if statement in JavaScript is nothing special compared to any other language. It's pretty straightforward. And what we're doing here is we're comparing x and y, and we're comparing it with a double equals operator. Now, one of the most common mistakes is instead of double equals is to say x equals to y. Well, x equals to y will take the value of y, place it in x, and use the result of that as the value to evaluate whether or not it's true or not. So we don't want that. We actually want to compare x and y, and therefore it's a double equals. So what we're doing here is saying if x is equal to y, then we're going to execute the next line, which is this console x is equal to y. Let's go ahead and comment the second part out here and save that. And you can see it says x is equal to y because x is 4 and y is 4 as well. Now let's make this a little bit more interesting. Let's uncomment this line and see what we're doing here. Here, first of all, we're changing the type of x. The x now is no longer 4 as a number, x is 4 as a string. So what happens if we actually compare them now? Well, let's go ahead and try that. Let's save that. And you can see it says x equals to 4, 4 is a string, is equal to y equals to 4. Now, what is going on here? Obviously, the string can't possibly be equal to a number. Well, what's going on here is called type coercion. And type coercion just means that the language converts something for you from one type to another type automatically on the fly. So when the JavaScript tries to evaluate this equality, it converts one of the types to be the same type as the other variable and only then compares the values. Now, what if you didn't want that? What if you didn't want JavaScript to automatically convert things for you when trying to evaluate its equality? Well, that's where strict equality comes in. Let's go ahead and comment that out and go to the strict equality section here, and we'll uncomment that. So strict equality is signified by using triple equals. So now if I'm comparing x triple equals to y, it will first see whether or not these things are this x and y are the same type. And if they're not, it's not going to try to compare them anymore at that point. And in fact, I just realized I commented out x and y that I'm defining here. So let's go ahead and actually uncomment this whole thing. That way we'll have the variables available. So now if we execute this, x at this point is a string 4 and y is a number 4. So this will never actually execute right here. What will execute, however, is the else part. And here you get the chance to see what else looks like in JavaScript. And it's really, again, nothing special. Other languages have basically the same construct. And in the else clause, we are having console.log that says the strict x as a string 4 is not equal to y equals 4. And that is what we actually should see in the second printout. So let's go ahead and save that and see what it says. It says strict x is not equal to y equals 4 because 1 is a string and 1 is a number. In part 2 of this lecture, we're going to pick up where we left off and speak about what JavaScript considers false and what it considers true.